Of course, I lost like money there as well. I lost like £100, which I bought from my parents.
Yeah.
I still haven't returned that. That's just what people like to see, right? It's just how the algorithm works.
Yeah.
It's not gonna favor me talking here and saying, guys, don't spend your money, save up,
Yeah.
right? If I'm like, nah, go buy a Rolex, they're gonna be like, oh, damn.
Yeah, it's true. The more you compare yourself to other people, the more depressing life becomes. And it's very easy to do that on social media, right?
That's just the game, right? Like, if I don't feel that way, then I won't be motivated enough to push harder.
Yeah.
Like when I see other 20-year-olds driving Lambos and have not even made half of the money in like 2 years of the price of a Lambo. Now, sure, it feels bad. What choice are you gonna like make? Are you gonna be depressed about it, be sad, or are you gonna actually like go do something about it, right?
Most of the people that you're probably looking at and mad that you don't have the Lambo, they probably don't have it either.
I've tried ICT, I've tried supply and demand, all of that stuff, right? And then at the end, I was just like, let me just simplify it and narrow it down to me just making a very small prediction on one time frame every day. Like even if it's like only you making 1% a month, that's an edge. And that's good enough. That's 12% in a year.
Yeah.
That's really good. Literally everything is a scam.
Yes, it's
Everything.
It's true. It's true.
Everything's made to literally bring you down.
Like when we went to school, and I'm sure you probably had a similar experience, nobody ever taught me about tax. It's not taught anywhere. Nobody teaches you about inflation.
Like Shakespeare's dead, his books are there, read them for fun, right?
I think money is important. I think money has a lot of utility. And I think money can give you an incredible amount of freedom. You did computer science.
I just did it because that was the highest paid like in the UK degree, right?
Really?
So just in case nothing worked.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Risk Reward Radio. This is the show that dives inside the mind of traders and investors who are risking their hard-earned money in order to make a living. Now, for those of you that have been following the series so far, you'll know that I like an interesting backstory, and today's guest is not going to disappoint you. They went on and spent the last of their university loan purchasing a $300,000 prop firm challenge, which they actually managed to pass. Not only that, but they managed to accumulate 1.2 million in prop firm funding over the space of 3 months. Now, to a lot of people, that would be an incredible achievement on its own, but I'm the first one to say that you can get lucky in a very short space of time. However, this guest continued to defy all odds, and they went on to maintain and hold at least some or all of those accounts for around 700 days. During that period, they managed to accumulate $200,000 worth of payouts in over 45 payments. It is safe to say this guest is not relying on luck, and they actually have an edge in the market. I'm really looking forward to diving into some conversation. So without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Arman.
Thank you for having me today.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for joining us. I apologize for the weather.
Nah, no worries.
Absolutely terrible in today. I think this is part sweat, part rain, something going on here, but terrible.
Usual UK weather.
Yeah, this is like our peak summertime right now. Okay, so I like to kick off pretty standard. You've done a lot of these, so I'm sure you're pretty used to some of the format of how these starts. I would love to know, and I guess for anybody watching that is maybe unfamiliar with who you are or your journey into trading, do you mind giving us a little summary of your backstory in terms of how you got started and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, so I'm Arman, and online I go by ArmanTrades. So I started trading around when I was 16 years old. Right now I'm 20. And at 16, I first came across crypto. And that was like investing in, the meme coins and everything. And then trying to get lucky. Of course, I lost like money there as well. I lost like £100, which I bought from my parents.
Yeah.
I still haven't returned that.
We need to have words, man.
They think I still have an investor somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from there, I realized that was like a scam pretty much. So I stopped doing that. I went into other businesses like e-commerce, drop shipping, Amazon FBA.
Standard routes.
Yeah, I did all of those. Ended up losing a lot of money there as well. And eventually then my conclusion was like, let's just go back to trading because it's like trillions of dollars in front of you every day. And you just need to make a very small percentage. And it's possible if you like find your edge. Even though for a long time I was in the loophole of going in the rabbit hole where you're just finding the strategy, 90% win rate or something on YouTube every day, back test, no results. I was doing that. But then eventually I came to my senses with everything, spoke to other traders, and that's when I realized the right approach on how to like go about it, right?
Nice. I like that, man. It feels very clear to me that you had, I guess, a little bit of a entrepreneurial spirit in you from a very young age. Where did that come from? Is that something that like maybe your family members are into or brothers, sisters maybe like
To be honest, my parents are like Asian background, right?
okay.
So they're not like very encouraging of the whole business side of things. They want me to like get a degree, get a good job, and then just have like a safer route, I would say, in life.
Yep.
But then I kind of realized, especially when I was finishing A levels here, I was looking at jobs and the potential salaries for my degree, and I realized it's a scam. Like I was making pennies after paying taxes. Then I was looking at like houses, cars. I can't get any of that. Like I'm literally slaving away if I go down that route. Then everything just started sinking in, right? I was like, damn, my parents have been working the whole life. We still live in a tiny house rented. They don't have the best cars. Do I want to be there like when I'm 40, 50 years old, right? And at that point, I was like, I'm the only one that can save pretty much my whole family and the whole bloodline, right? So I just locked in. I was like, I want to make something work. Even right now, I wouldn't say I've made something work, right? Made some money, but it's not really that much money at the end of the day. So still on the grind.
Yeah, I like it, man. I like it. It's refreshing to hear, I would say, and I don't mean this in a offensive way by any means. It's refreshing to hear someone of your age remain so humble despite doing, I would say, some pretty big things in the space, right? Because there are a lot of people, and I can tell you from my experience, I spent 6 years before I just stopped losing money, right? I started in 2012, very different time, very different space. And it took me a long time before I found any sort of footing. So I feel like for at least the levels that you've got to at the moment are still levels that people are aspiring, but you've remained very humble, which I really like, right? Even like, I did a little bit of research on you on social media before we came up today. You're not I would say you're not very shouty on social media. You kind of keep to yourself. Every now and again you post. Is that how you've always been online, or is that something you adopted?
To be honest, from the start, I never wanted to even go on social media. I wanted to just stay anonymous and make my money, right? But then the more I met more people in the social media space, the more I realized that there is great potential in using social media because number one, networking.
Yeah.
It makes it so much easier to meet other people that are on the same path as you, the same mindset. And if you have some sort of following, it's very easy to reach out and connect with these people, especially if you have some value to provide. So obviously, I would say social media is good, but first, like build a skill set and make sure you have value to provide, and then you go on social media. And then in terms of like showing off your lifestyle and stuff, that is somewhat good, depending on your goals. Like if you're trying to like sell an info product, right? Showing off is might not be the most humble thing, but then that's just what people like to see, right? It's just how the algorithm works.
Yeah.
It's not gonna favor me talking here and saying, guys, don't spend your money, save up,
Yeah.
right? If I'm like, nah, go buy a Rolex, they're gonna be like, oh, damn.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. It's the side of social media that I love and hate, right? I love in the sense that, like you said, it can be a fantastic place for growth, for networking massively. And I spent a lot of time reluctant to get active on social media because I was always like, the more you compare yourself to other people, the more depressing life becomes. And it's very easy to do that on social media, right? Me and you could look at the same post online and you could find it motivational and I could find it depressing. And so a lot of it depends on your perspective. But I think when you spend more time in the space, and again, from the perspective that you have, I agree with what you say. Like, if you use it in the right way, it can be a great tool to run a business. It can be a great tool to network. And I think you just have to be very diligent. And I speak about this a lot that, my two best friends online are mute and block. Like, the moment I feel that there is energy that I don't like, I'm very quick to just try and remove it from my timeline and just maintain my presence. Is that something that you feel like you do a lot of as well?
I don't really do that, to be honest. I feel like, to be fully honest, I might be like falling victim to the whole like what you just described, where like, oh, you see someone doing well and you're like, damn, I'm not doing that well, right? But I feel like that's just the game, right? Like, if I don't feel that way, then I won't be motivated enough to push harder.
Yeah.
Like when I see other 20-year-olds driving Lambos and have not even made half of the money in like 2 years of the price of a Lambo. Now, sure, it feels bad,
Yep.
might be depressing, But what can you do about it? That's what matters now. What choice are you gonna like make? Are you gonna be depressed about it, be sad, or are you gonna actually like go do something about it, right?
Yeah. The harsh reality is most of the people that you're probably looking at and mad that you don't have the Lambo, they probably don't have it either. That's the reality of social media,
It's
right?
possible, yeah.
Fake it till you make it is
Yeah.
a big thing for a lot of people these days, and it's so easy to fall victim to that. So I try and be very diligent about who I network with and who I reach out to, I think more so who I keep in contact with. There are a lot of people that you can interact with, especially when you have any level of following, right? You tend to meet people, send DMs, people engage with your content, whatever it is. But who I actually keep in contact with, I'm very kind of strict about, right? Okay, cool. I like that. I like that. So talk to me a little bit about your interest in trading and how that evolved for you. So you mentioned obviously you started in the crypto space. Is crypto something that you still trade? Do you focus on other markets, one market?
Currently for crypto, I just do like a long-term investment.
Okay.
So like Bitcoin, Ethereum, just trying to like DCA into them, right?
Okay.
For like the next bull run or something. Then I have like a certain percentage of my portfolio which goes into like high risk plays, maybe meme coins or something like that. And I have like friends that are into that, focus only into that side of things, and I just like let them manage my capital for that.
Nice, nice.
And in regards to like you said, the interest in trading, right? I feel like I don't really have an interest in trading. I'm just interested in like making money. So that's why I tried every business. Trading is the one that worked.
Interesting.
So it's not like I'm passionate about the markets, about banking or anything.
Yeah.
I just do it because it's what's making money right now. Yeah.
That's it. So if you feel like you found something that made you more money than trading, do you think you'd give up trading?
Yeah, definitely.
That's weird for me to hear because there's a lot of people that I speak to that once they kind of get the bite for trading, it's very addictive. A lot of people kind of have that gambler's mentality as well, where it's very hard to let go. And I think especially if the market has taken money from you, it's very hard to not want to get it all back or get your revenge to some extent. So why do you think that's different for you? Like, what is it about your approach to the market that allows you to stay so detached?
I'm not too sure. I've never actually suffered from these problems like over trading, revenge trading, any of that. Like once there's a loss, I just accept it and move on, right? I don't know how people are letting some numbers on a screen like impact their mindset and everything and just going deeper down. Like sure, it might have happened to me once, maybe on a demo account or something.
Okay.
But then once I seen what happened, I very quickly realized that this is definitely not the right way to do it. Then you don't do it. But there's people that you hear about, they've been doing this for like years. They're revenge trading for years. And that to me is just mind blowing. Like how you keep doing that.
You know, so it's crazy because I feel like I was that guy, right? I openly talk about this a lot. For the first 6 years of my journey, I struggled to just find my feet. I would continually lose money, and a lot of it was for really two reasons. One, I had no control over my emotions. I was constantly chasing the market. I would revenge trade, overtrade, all of that stuff. And the second thing is I constantly changed my strategy. And back when I started, there wasn't really much. And I'm going to say this loosely because I hold myself accountable for a lot of my mistakes, but there wasn't a great place of good information, right? When I started, there was pretty much, to my knowledge, there was like Baby Pips and the forums on Forex Factory. And you had to find the good stuff. There was a lot of shit out there, right? I got exposed to ICT very early and I was fascinated, like much of the fanboys these days, very, very early on. But I found it wasn't really something for me. And it took me a long time to realize both of those things and really try and fix it for myself. And I think a lot of it was because, at least at the time, and this is what I'd love to hear from your side, is I was always attached to the money that I was putting in, right? So when you can say it's just numbers on a screen, I wish I had that perspective when I was getting into the game. I feel like it would have made my journey a lot easier. I feel like you took quite a risky approach going in because you, obviously, you know, from what we said in your intro, you used the last of your university loan to kind of buy a challenge. At that point, were you confident that you would pass it, or did it feel risky to you at that time?
It was still a risk, to be honest. Like I remember just telling my friend, like every day while I was in the challenge, I was like, it's like, what was I saying? Just slipped out of my mind. You know, the saying where it's like, go go home or like
Go hard, go home.
yeah, something like that. I
Yeah.
just used to say that I'm like going fully in this time, right? Because if I lost the challenge, it was kind of over. Like my parents had no idea. They every time they asked me, I was like, yeah, I saved like 5-6K from the maintenance loan in my bank from like a year for stuff, right? So they are like, oh, he's got some money. Then if we ever need it, we can borrow it or not. But then I'm down 1.5K. Like,
do they know now? Did you ever tell them?
I remember mentioning to them, but I never like fully explained it.
So let's make sure they never watch this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh man. So you didn't even find at that stage, even when you pretty much had no money to your name at that point, you didn't feel like at that point that you were attached to the money that you were seeing on the positions you were taking?
Nah, the crazy thing is that challenge, once I passed it, right, I made 4K payout and then I didn't take it out. I kept making trades until I went to 15K payout, then I took it out. So I could have literally failed it and then still blown it. Because in my mind, my target was like 15 to 20K. I was like, first payout needs to be 15 to 20K, so that after that, I already have a decent buffer. Then now I can make small payouts and keep adding onto this pile that I've already made. I didn't want to like just start from 4K, no, just add to 4 slowly, because I was technically down like 6-7K already from all the other business ideas I've tried.
Right.
So that's how I did it, yeah.
And is that an approach that you still have till this day? Like, will you still try and run up an account to a certain amount, or do you kind of, because I know there's a lot of people that will get 1 or 2%, take the payout, and then start over and start fresh. Like, is your approach changed much now?
Right now, yeah, it's changed. But until like the whole prop firm situation, I was very conservative. Every time I would have one win above the starting balance, I would take payout, even if that's $500 or 1K, right? I would just take it. And I feel like that's one of the reasons I managed to keep 600K for like 700 days, right?
Nice.
But now what I'm doing is I'm literally just like full porting, 4% risk, 1-to-1 risk to reward until I pass the challenge. Then I do that again for like 2 free trades, make 8 to 12K, and then I'm out. Because I can't trust prop firms anymore. I'm like, are they gonna be there? Like, what's the point in me keeping an account for 700 days when it's just all gone in one day, right? There's no point. Like, it helps me with marketing and whatnot, like showing people what I've achieved, but now it's gone. Think of the past.
So do you have a long-term vision with what you hope to do with, again, I know for you it's centered around just what makes you the most money, but is there a long-term vision of maybe managing investor money, maybe working in a hedge fund? Is that on the cards for you at all? Is something you'd want to do?
I mean, it depends on the money, right?
Okay.
If I can make more money trading my personal account, then I wouldn't do that. And depending on like the stress level and how much of my time I'm putting into it, because currently I'm barely trading an hour a day.
Okay.
And I'm making like good money yearly, right? At my age, which is very good. But if I need to work for like a hedge fund, maybe I need to do analysis or whatnot, like for a whole day, maybe go to a floor, maybe more meetings, right? And that's not something I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And then imagine then if there is private capital I'm managing from like actual investors, that's gonna be so much more stress on your mind. Like if I'm my 100K personal account down 10%, worst case, I lose 10K of my own money.
Yeah.
Now imagine being 10% down on 1 million of investor people. Like sure, it's got a contract, they're fine with it, but it's still not the same, I would say.
So are you trading personal capital at the moment as well as prop firms?
Yeah.
You're doing both. And do you find that you manage both of those quite differently, maybe in terms of how you risk or your approach at all? Is that different?
Yeah, definitely. Like I tried having one big personal account before. I didn't like that much because during drawdown, the drawdown can be quite big. And then you're like on the edge the whole time until you come back into profit.
Okay.
That could be a week, even 2 weeks. So what I did now is I have like 6 different personal accounts. Each have like 10 to 15K in there, and I just rotate between them.
Okay.
So this way I'm kind of guaranteed to make money every month from at least a few of those accounts.
Yeah.
And I risk like 2 to 3%. So I make a few thousand from these accounts. Then if I have 1 or 2 that I draw down, it's not that big of a deal because I know some will make me money. And this ends up balancing out at the end.
So when you rotate them, you trade, you start off with one account, you'll make a few percent on the account, a few winning trades, whatever it is. Then you'll lock that in, secure that payout, and then go to the next one. Is that right?
Yeah, literally that.
Okay, cool. I like that because I think we had a guest on a few weeks ago, and we were talking about the prop firm space in general, and I guess I think people deemed it as a positive or a negative to the trading community overall. And I think you could probably make a fair argument that there are pros and cons depending on how people approach it. And I think one of the things that we were stuck on was this idea that you need to be able to trade personal capital and prop firms quite differently, because at least from the people that I've been fortunate enough to meet, they end up having quite a different approach to prop firms. They kind of gamify them in a way to make sure they get past the challenges, make sure they're getting their payouts, but then they'll treat personal capital very differently. And I think for a lot of people that can be quite difficult. It's two different mindsets, right?
Yeah.
Like the approach that you initially had with prop firms where you kept an account for 700 days, that's kind of the outlook that you would want to have with personal capital, right? You can't afford to run a 100 grand account down to zero and then just say, oh, screw it, I'll start all over again, right? So is that something that you were very conscious about? Is that something you had to learn the hard way?
I wouldn't say the hard way. Like, to be honest, I haven't really made any major mistakes in my whole trading career so far. Haven't made like any major losses. I made some like good achievements. Like one of my accounts, it was a 300K. I managed to bring that down to a negative 9.8%.
Okay.
Then it took me 10 months to bring that back into a payout.
Wow.
And I consistently did that. And it's all screenshots, everything's online. So
awesome.
No big mistakes, to be honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So talk to me a little bit about your strategy, if you don't mind, right? I want to hear a little bit about the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's part of your approach that clearly works. And the thing that stands out for me initially is clearly you have an edge in terms of your psychology. There's not a lot of people that I've been, again, fortunate enough to speak to that are able to have that level of detachment, both from the markets and from money. And it's clear that that's something that came quite naturally to you. And I think there's going to be an element of maybe your upbringing or something which came or made you become that way. And that's something I want to dive into. But I want to talk a little bit about the technical side first. So is there a specific market or asset class that you focus on at the moment?
Yeah, so I only trade the NASDAQ on the 5-minute time frame, and that's it. That's all I've traded for the past like 2.5 years now. And my approach is very simple as well. I only trade support and resistance.
Okay.
Very basic analysis, right? 3 p.m. UK time, like 30 minutes after New York Open, I go on the chart. I start looking for my support resistance levels. And the way I do it is I don't place market orders, but it's a stop orders.
Okay.
So my overall like logic behind my analysis is this way. Let's say there is a support level and there's a resistance level, right? If price is going up to the resistance level, I'm not going to try to short from the resistance or long from there. I'm going to make my prediction. If I'm saying it's going to come from this resistance to this support, I would place a 1-to-1 risk reward in between there and then just leave it. So now I'm basically gone.
Yeah.
I've done my analysis, placed my trade. So now if price decides to come back to the support level, it most of the time will trigger my trade in.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's only a 1-to-1 risk to reward and it's like 30 points, it will just hit TP or stop loss as well.
Yeah, I like that. It's a very simple approach.
Yeah, very simple.
But I think that's probably why it works so well, right? There's a lot of traders. So I don't know how much you know about me. I work as a performance coach with traders with FundedNext. And a lot of the stuff that I work on is purely mindset. It's all psychology based. And a lot of the discussions that I have with traders is usually to do with the fact that they've just overcomplicated their strategy, right? And I think, again, going back to like what we touched on at the start about social media, it's so easy to have a complicated strategy now. Everyone's looking at implied fair value gaps and order blocks and, there's a million different ways to analyze the charts and it's so easy to get lost in it. So the approach that you have now, I like it because it's so simple. It's fairly... it's foolproof, right? It's you can teach it to a monkey almost.
Yeah.
No disrespect, right? But it's simple, and I think that's why it probably has a good edge in the market. Where did you learn it from? Is it something you came up with? Did you ever have a mentor?
It's just try and error. Like I've tried ICT, I've tried supply and demand, all of that stuff, right? And then at the end, I was just like, let me just simplify it and narrow it down to me just making a very small prediction on one time frame every day, and then collect the data, and then once I have my whole data, I will analyze that data, go back to every trade on the chart, see what could change about this, do that over and over again. Like I was literally for like 4 months, 10 hours a day, just doing this every single day. Like I would wake up, straight to the charts, repeat the whole process. Nighttime, sleep, back to the charts. Like this is my whole life for 4 months, just building this, getting this edge in the markets. And then eventually everything just came together when I had my whole data, right? Nice. And even then, it's not like the end. Like that's just the beginning. After that, I had so many problems. Like you start having the fear of your edge fading away. Then you're like, oh, what do I do now? My results are diminishing. Then you have to go back again to hold your trades and now optimize for maybe the next 6 months and then keep doing that again, because you can't have like one system that works forever. It needs to be constantly refined and optimized for the next like 6 to 12 months and then keep doing it over and over.
I like that. I like that a lot, man. Because even from a psychology standpoint, data is everything, right?
100%.
Data is what gives you confidence for your approach in the market. And there's a big part of what I do where, yes, my niche, my area of expertise is psychology. But usually if I sit down to have a coaching session with someone, the first question I ask them is, how do you know that you have an edge? And what I want to hear is that, well, I've got X amount of data over the last 100, 500, 1,000 trades that tells me if I do this, this, and this will happen. And you'll be surprised, maybe you won't be surprised, there's a lot of people that just don't have that, right? They're taking trades based on what they feel or what they think, or, based on this mystical pattern of how the stars are, like, I don't know, they come up with so much shit in the way that they trade. And it really it gives them no edge. And so it's interesting and, again, refreshing to hear somebody that's got such a simplified approach. And I think it goes against a lot of especially the ICT fanboys. I like to take a dig at them as much as I can because they're so diehard about that their strategy or their method of analysis is the best way to do things. And anybody that tries to do anything differently is missing something. This is point in case proof of someone that is beating the odds without
there's
it.
so
Right?
many people that don't use ICT. Like, ICT can work as well. It's the ICT people just think that they know how the market works.
Yeah.
They feel like they know the actual back end of the market. But I don't think anyone knows that, right? I just treat it as random.
Yeah.
I feel like everything in the market is random, and you just need to find that slight edge. Like, even if it's like only you making 1% a month, that's an edge. And that's good enough. That's 12% in a year.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I always frame it to people like this, where when I see a lot of traders struggling to accept that the markets are inherently random, I try and describe it in the sense that accepting uncertainty it doesn't mean that nothing works ever. It means everything works, but only some of the time. And when you accept that, then you start to understand that if the markets are always going to be random and anything can work at any time, then actually your edge is not really your strategy. It's in your ability to manage risk, right? Because when you stop thinking of yourself as a predictor or forecaster of the market, then it drops a lot of ego. You stop thinking that you need to be right, and you just start focusing on what makes me money.
Yeah.
Right? It's this very simplified approach.
Literally, there's so many bad strategies that people use, and the only thing they're missing is good risk management.
Yes.
Like, you do a certain type of risk management, you might be profitable with that strategy. Maybe like certain losses, you start so like if you lose too many times, you do something different, right? Like, so many things you can switch around that can fix your strategy.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I've always liked the idea of just focusing on risk. I think when people focus on risk, you start to focus on the only thing you inherently can control, right? So I want to go back a little bit to your strategy and the market that you trade. You said it was only NASDAQ. Is that by design? Is that just the first one that you tried and it seemed to work? Or have you ruled out others because your strategy doesn't work on those?
So I've tried like the Forex pairs as well before, but I feel like they just move much more than like NASDAQ. Then there's US 30, for example, which is very similar to NASDAQ, but then again, that moves so much more. Then there's S&P, that moves barely anything. So the NASDAQ was like the sweet spot I found where I can get that nice move every day, like the 30 points I need, right? And I thought that was like very good.
Yeah.
And I only trade the 5-minute time frame. Like, I don't do any higher time frame analysis or anything like that.
It's awesome to hear because it goes against so much of what people talk about online, but clearly you're making it work for you, which I like.
I would literally, by definition, I would be a scalper then, right?
Yeah.
But even though I only have like 2 to 3 trades every week, so like 10 to 12 trades a month, most scalpers are trying to take 10 to 12 in a day.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So it sounds like if you are trading a 5-minute time frame, but you're only trading 2 to 3 times a week, it seems like you have a lot of criteria that keeps you out of the market. Would that be fair to say?
It's not even criteria. Like I explained how my trade gets entered, right?
Okay.
Most of the time, for example, in the way I described it, that resistance level might not be it might not touch that and come back down. So just keep continuing up.
Okay.
So my trade gets left there forever.
Right.
So that happens many times where price just leaves and never pretty much aligns with my bias.
Got you.
So that's why the trades are so few.
Yeah, no, I like that. Again, it goes along with this idea of less is more.
Yeah.
Right. I think I find that to be true in a lot of areas of life, but trading especially. Okay, cool. So I want to talk to you a little bit about money, if you don't mind, right? I'm very fascinated to your approach and how you go about managing it mentally, as well as what you do in your day to day. Because, like I said, even when I kind of looked up your profiles online, you're very low key. There's a lot of people, and I think I definitely would have been one of these people. If I made anywhere close to the amount of money that you made at a very young age, I'd be having champagne showers every day. I think, right? And I think a lot of the younger generation would be like that. Why do you think that your approach to money has been so different and you're able to be so long-sighted with it? Because you clearly have big dreams, big goals, big ambitions. Why do you think you've been able to do that and a lot of other people struggle with that?
What are you saying that people struggle with? Like,
I think a lot of people struggle to delay gratification, right? When they make a lot of money, especially if they make it in a very short time space, and when they're quite young, they're very quick to blow it all.
yeah, I feel like that's just very logical, right? Let's say like I made 200K, right? On that 200K, like what can you actually blow it on? Like it would be all gone. That's such a small amount of money. To me, it's like I made no money. Like I sure I have that much money. I've used some of it, but every day I just feel like I'm broke. I'm still trying to make money every day. Like for me, it's the same as it was before I made any money. I'm still trying to make money.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. How do I make, for example, 200K in a month? Maybe then it'll be all better.
So then maybe a better question for you is, what do you want to do with your money? If you've got have you got a target of how much you want to make a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever it is? Like, is there a number in mind?
Yeah, I definitely want to make like 50 to 100K a month.
A month.
I feel like if I can consistently do that, that's when I would be able to solve pretty much any problem in life.
Okay.
Yeah.
So with that level of money, let's go with the higher end. Let's say 100K a month. What do you plan to do with it? Is that something that you've ever thought about?
Well, the first thing is I want to provide for my parents, right? You want to take care of your parents fully. Like the only reason you're here is because of them, right? Like they worked hard, like they moved countries, they had to come alone from a different country so that eventually the kids will have a good future. So my goal is just buy them a house and just spoil them as much as possible, right?
Nice.
And I feel like 100K, I can do that. Literally, I can get anything they want, get them a house, cars, everything, and then I will still have money to do my own stuff as well.
And what do you want to do for your own stuff? Have you
Just
got
my
any?
own place, my own car, this usual stuff, and then
Yeah.
just be comfortable where you can just buy food without looking at the price, like these things, right? It's just all about experiences at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Experiences, health,
Yep.
relationships, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Like you might have 50 million, but your health's bad, you have no relationships. Now it's like, is it even worth having 50 million? Sure, you might be driving a Lambo, but you're fat, you have a
Yeah.
disease, right? Diabetes.
It's true.
It's like, I'd rather know at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So is health something that you're very conscious about in this day and age?
Yeah, definitely. I try to eat like very clean foods. I completely avoid sugar. Like I rarely eat sugar. Maybe once a month if I go outside for like a good restaurant or something, right? And then I'm very consistent with the gym as well, like 6 times a week.
Nice.
So
Nice.
health is wealth.
Yeah, 100%. How long do you feel like you've been on the health kick?
So I've been like working out and like gym, all that stuff for about 3.5 years now.
Okay.
And about food and eating clean, that's only since I like started making some money. Because before that, I couldn't really buy
It's
expensive.
expensive. It is. It's really surprising because everyone tells you that you should eat really well, you should eat clean stuff, organic if you can, whatever it is. But at least here in the UK, it's fucking expensive to eat well.
Literally a small pack of like organic chicken breast or something, I don't know, might be like
crazy.
£5. That's crazy.
Honestly,
That's
it
like
is
one
nuts.
day.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So what does like your sort of weekly food look like? Are there meals that you prefer or that you like or you go to?
Well, you just go for like high protein meals, right? And it's usually just like chicken, salad wraps, these kind of things. Maybe beef here and there, yogurt. That's like very high protein as well. Just these things, yeah.
Do you find what you eat has any impact on your mood or your energy?
Definitely, definitely. So firstly, when you're empty stomach, you operate much better on a full stomach, especially if it's not carbohydrates, right? If it's like you have, I don't know, a sandwich, now your mind just kind of slows down. You feel more lazy, you don't want to do like the work. But in comparison, let's say I just have 500 grams of yogurt,
Yep.
I feel like just normal. Like I've had a decent amount of protein, calories not too bad, and I'm still operating as if I was empty stomach.
So you are you very conscious, because I think we touched on this just before we got on camera, which is you don't purposefully do like intermittent fasting, right?
Nah, not purposefully, but it just ends up happening.
Yeah. See, it was weird because I fell into the exact same position as this. I found that the worst part about me, and again, I'm always like open about this. The worst part about me is usually my diet. I love food. I love to eat. And that means that I don't like boring or bland food. Like for me, a salad is the worst thing in the world. I find it so tasteless. I find it so boring. And because I don't enjoy it, I find it hard to be consistent with it. And I think the problem that I had, because at least for a certain period, a lot of my diet was very carb heavy. I felt exactly what you described. I was very sluggish. I was constantly bloated. And I'm very similar to you. Like I try and work out as often as I can. I go through phases where I'm kind of in the zone and out of the zone. That's just kind of how I've always been. But generally, I stay in half decent shape. But a lot of it is rooted back to diet. So this is why it sounds completely off trading related, but I'm a big believer in this idea that, how you do something is how you do everything. And I think the habits and routines and how you hold yourself off the charts has a real big impact on how you perform on the charts, right? If you're filling yourself with constantly like sugary snacks and things like this, your energy levels are going to be up and down. This has an impact on your energy and your mood. And if you're doing things which are stressful in the markets, it can have a big impact on you, right?
Yeah.
So do you find that, did you ever have a stage where you used to eat quite unclean and it used to have a very different impact on you?
Yeah, definitely. Like about 2 years ago, I used to, like around that time is when I started kind of working out seriously, and I went this huge cut. I was like losing 2 kilograms in a week.
Oh, wow.
I was barely eating. And because I want, I don't know, it was like body dysmorphia or something, right? I want to just get shredded abs and everything. So I kept starving myself. And at one point, I kind of recovered from that. And it was a lot of binge eating. It was just like, I would eat everything I would see in the cupboard, right?
Yeah.
Like biscuits, every snack, crisps. Then you diet again for a day.
Yeah.
You feel like you did good, but you just can't control it. And you have to go again and start eating everything.
Yeah.
Literally, you stuff yourself with every calorie that you didn't eat for the past 2 days. You just eat so much more in one day.
Yeah.
And from there, I realized that's not the way. Just need to balance it out.
Yeah.
There's no point in having, for example, shredded abs if you can't have enough muscle, for example, right?
Yeah. It's true. So the routine that I fell on, and I feel like maybe you'll resonate with this a little bit, is I basically only eat when I feel hungry, right? And for me, a lot of the time, that's never in the morning. When I wake up, I never feel hungry. I pretty much have my first meal of the day usually around 3 or 4 p.m. And a lot of people will be dying by that stage. And I don't know if I've just done it long enough that I'm used to it, but to me, that just seems super normal.
Yeah, I have mine around 1 p.m., 1, 2 p.m. usually. That's my first meal. And the next one's 7, 8 p.m.
Yeah, and you're done for the day.
Yeah, I don't know, breakfast, I remember watching a lot of videos on breakfast. Apparently it's a propaganda.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes sense as well, right?
Yeah.
They just want to push you eating so much meat and stuff in the morning. And then if you think about it deeply, hundreds of years ago, no one went just hunting in the morning and just had feast in the morning, right? They had to work the whole day to get the feast. So now it's just no delayed gratification, just right there in front of you.
Yeah.
All your dopamine is just going crazy right when you wake up. Now your day is kind of gone. What do you have left to achieve? Because the primal instinct is to go hunting, right? For a man, you have nothing to do now.
Yeah.
You've already achieved your biological goal at that point.
Yeah. I like that. It's an interesting way to look at it, but it's true. I think it makes sense for a lot of us how we've evolved to this day and age. And I think what you said about the propaganda is right, because I'm sure I looked this up at some point. The whole idea of breakfast being the most important meal of the day, I think it was invented by, I think it was Kellogg's, right? The people that do the cereals.
Maybe, yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me, right? Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me. But it's the same with a lot of areas of life. I was always, or at least I heard growing up, that the American dream is to buy your own house at some point. But the whole idea of a mortgage is just it's an investment. It's a pitch by the banks to get you to buy their product. Because essentially, for the normal person, a mortgage is a debt. It's a bad thing to have. But they sell it to you like it's an asset. They sell it to you like, oh, you can be on the mortgage ladder, you can own your own home and da-da-da. But actually, for the vast majority of people, it's the biggest debt that you'll ever take on, and it actually traps you in so many ways in life.
Literally everything is a scam.
Yes, it's
Everything.
It's true. It's true.
Everything's made to literally bring you down.
Yeah.
Nothing's there to help you.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
But I find that true of the entire schooling system, right? And it took me a long time to realize this, but I think the majority of at least schools that probably me and you went to, like the traditional schooling system, it only teaches you how to be an employee. Like when we went to school, and I'm sure you probably had a similar experience, nobody ever taught me about tax. It's not taught anywhere. Nobody teaches you about inflation.
It's kind of crazy.
It's it's insane. And the moment I stepped out of the 9 to 5 world and I decided to start my own business, and I had to learn about why it's important to invest. And I mean, there was something I was always interested in, but I had to learn about like inflation. I had to learn how to pay my own taxes. And it's like, this is the stuff they should teach you.
Yeah.
But school gets you prepared for none of that stuff.
Teach you how to analyze some text in some Shakespeare book.
Yeah,
like why?
I mean,
so random.
To be fair, there's maybe a very small percentage of the population that will maybe go down that path.
Yeah, literally. And
for the vast majority, yeah.
Like you probably no value to the world by doing that anyways. Like Shakespeare's dead, his books are there, read them for fun, right?
This is gonna be the bit that gets clipped for our short. I mean, yeah, there's value in what you say. I can't disagree with you entirely, man. Okay, so whilst we're on the education system, you're 20 right now, right?
Yeah.
20. Are you still at university?
I just finished university.
What did you study?
Computer science.
Nice.
I had my exams literally like last week.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How did they go?
Not too well.
Yeah. Oh, really? Do you feel like you almost didn't care about them?
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. The thing is, I'm doing it mainly for my parents.
Okay.
Because they said just do it just in case, right? And Asian background, like they value degrees like a lot, even though it might not help. So I was like, I'll do it for them. But for some reason, this year was just different for me. Like my brain just doesn't lock in the same. Like usually the day before the exam, my brain would just lock in and get everything like in, right?
Yep.
But this year, that didn't work either. I just couldn't care less anymore. It's it was so difficult as well. Like,
sorry, I was going to say, do you think any of it is linked to the and I'll play it down because I know you like to, the success that you're having in trading? Do you think that has any impact?
Definitely, yeah. Because if I didn't have that, then this was my only route, right? Then I had to like just make it work. But now that everything else is going well, I'm just looking forward to the next month of trading. The exams is like a nuisance in my way.
Yeah.
So.
At least they're done and out of the way now. So it's interesting because I feel like I had a very similar sort of mentality, right? Asian background. We're taught the exact same thing. Like you have to get good grades to get to a good university, get a good degree, and then you get a good job, and then you're good for life. That's what I was told growing up. And again, maybe for some people in some industries, that traditional path still may be true. But then again, and I think I only got exposed to this when I started to network more. When you see how much money is out there, and when you see how much money that certain people are making, it's very hard to go back to a traditional way of thinking, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I have no choice but to make trading and my business work because I would not do well in a 9 to 5 now.
Yeah, literally.
Right? The thought of having to exchange the majority of my day or my week for the money that most average jobs will pay you is very difficult to go back to, right? It's one of those things where once you see it and you feel it, you can't go back.
Yeah, literally, it's crazy. Like I remember, so like in the last 3 years of my university, I've been to my university like less than 20 times. And every time I've been in and I've interacted with like these people, it's so demotivating. They're all like a copy and paste of each other. It's like all NPCs, right?
Yep.
It's like I talk to them, all my success feels like I've made nothing. I feel like I'm just part of them. I hate the environment. And I can't imagine how it's a 9 to 5 as well, right? Everyone just doing the same thing over and over every day. It's like, it's just really bad. It's miserable.
The thing is, when I first started getting into trading, I started in, I think I mentioned 2012. And I was on a placement year at university. And a lot of the reason that I wanted to, at that time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I remember coming home, and this was like 3 months into my placement. And I genuinely walked into like my little student accommodation where I was staying. And I was like, how the fuck do people do this for 50 years?
Yeah, literally.
I couldn't rational like what that would be like to do that every single day for 50 years. And it was crazy because even after I graduated and I got into like my first jobs, I worked in IT for a period, but before that I had a middle job where I worked on reception somewhere. And even as a receptionist, there were certain people that had been in that job for like 30 years as a receptionist. And I don't mean this in any disrespectful way to anybody that's doing that sort of job. But I feel like a lot of people get stuck doing something that's either not going to give them the money they want to have the type of life that they want, or they end up selling themselves to do something that they don't really enjoy because they think it gives them a paycheck.
Yeah. It's literally a nightmare.
It's crazy. It's honestly crazy. And I again, maybe very similar to you. Maybe I didn't do it as young as you, but it took me until my late 20s to realize that life is short. Genuinely, life is short. And when you think about spending your life, let's move away from the idea of just the 9-to-5 world, because I don't want this to be disrespectful for anybody that chooses it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just choose to go down a path which they actually is never going to make them happy.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think it's even their fault. It's just the way they get programmed into it. Like everyone, when they grow up, they're like a blank piece of paper, right? And then your surroundings that you write on it. So if you just program them into believing so like firmly that that is the right way, that's the only thing they can do in life, what they're gonna do? That's literally what they're gonna do, right? Like there's no other option in them. In their mind, everything else does not exist. Like in their mind, a business is like, oh, I might lose all my money, go homeless. I'm not gonna do that. I wanna only take this route and just have a family and all that stuff. It's crazy, but
it's interesting because the more and the longer that I've run my own business, the more I've met people from different sides of things, and it never fails to surprise me. So I was at a wedding over the weekend, and I met someone that was basically a freelancer. She works in like the sort of graphic design industry, and she went from having a 9-to-5 to basically running her own little side hustle. And she hates it. And I was like, don't get me wrong, there are parts of having a business, and you'll know this from especially the trading side or anything else that you run. Businesses will never have consistent income, right? Yeah. There'll be periods where sometimes you don't make any money. And this is kind of the risk of having your own business, right? There's no steady income, there's no safety net. But for all the insecurity that my business gives me, for the level of freedom and for the potential of what I could create, it makes it worth it. It's stressful at the best of times, but genuinely, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah.
But it was in that conversation, it was a reminder to me that not everyone is wired the same. And for a big part of my life, and again, I'll be completely honest with you, a big part of my life, especially probably when I was maybe a little bit older than you and growing up and trying to open my mind to the business and investing world, there was a big part of me that judged people that didn't think the same way as me. If somebody was going down the 9-to-5 path, I'd be like, how can you not see that having a business is better? How can you not see that investing is far better use of your time, money, and energy, resources, whatever it may be? And I used to think that people were just not thinking the right thing. They hadn't like really seen the world for what it was. But really and truly, and this is something that took me a long time to accept, it was understanding that everyone wants different things in life. Not everybody wants to make an abundance of money. Some people are genuinely happy living the safe path and having the traditional route.
But do you think that's true? Do you think if one of these people, you tell them, okay, in a literally snap of a finger, right? You can have 1 million or keep continue with your life. What would you choose? Most people will choose the million, right?
I think so. I
feel like it's like they're kind of coping. It's like a very, very high level of coping where they fully convince themselves that they're genuinely happy with doing that because there's no other option for them. And everyone wants to be happy, right?
Yeah.
So what they're going to do, they're going to convince themselves to find a way to become happy in their situation. That's what I feel like the situation is with them.
I feel like it's a very tricky conversation because when you talk about being happy for everyone is very different. And I've said this before, right? I was very fortunate where last year I got to spend 6 months in Thailand. And it was a great trip, beautiful country. Have you ever been?
No.
Amazing place. I would highly recommend checking it out. But it really, and truly change my perspective on the world, right? And a lot of it was because of happiness. Because I think especially when were you born in the UK?
Nah,
Where,
Italy.
Italy?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And when did you come to the UK? Quite young? Or?
7 years ago.
Okay, cool. So I feel like when you come from a first world country that has, and you're brought up around a system that is designed and basically teaches you nothing about, basically all about money, right? You're taught that you need money to survive, which is true, right? I'm not dismissing that in any way, shape, or form. But I think there is a narrative that is painted that is, if you don't have money, you're going to be unhappy, right? And again, to some degree, I think that's true because I think money adds a certain level of luxury and comfort into your life.
That's not the case in Thailand, is it?
This is what really like changed my perspective of a lot of things because I went out there for 6 months and a lot of it was genuinely to escape the UK. I'm falling out of love with the UK day by day. Today was a prime example. The weather sucks, right? It doesn't matter how much money you make here, you can't buy better weather.
Yeah.
The UK sucks for that. And a lot of it was because I feel like we're constantly trapped in this bubble where we are taught that the only thing that you should be doing is making more money. And I'm not saying I disagree with that. I think money is important. I think money has a lot of utility. And I think money can give you an incredible amount of freedom. But a big part of why most people want money is because of what we said. We want to be happy. And so when I went to Thailand, there are people there that earn way less money. Like even if I was to choose to go down a very safe 9 to 5 route here and earn an average salary in the UK, which is like 35,000 a year maybe. The average salary, last I checked, someone fact checked this for me, but the last I checked in Thailand, £12,000 a year. And I promise you, some of the happiest people I have ever met in my life were in Thailand.
Yeah, that's something I realized as well. I was watching a lot of videos and like reading about this. Do you know the blue zones in the world where people live
Yes.
over 100?
Did you watch the documentary on Netflix?
I know on Netflix, but I've like seen a bunch of like stuff on YouTube
Okay.
on it. And one of the common things I realized amongst like all of these is these people are very happy.
Yes.
And their happiness like is not from money. They live in small towns. Everyone trusts each other. They have a very strong community, and they just go about their day. Like they're literally, the doors are open.
Yeah.
They walk into each other's house. They talk to each other. Right? It's like a very simple, fulfilling life.
Yeah.
Not full of stress about some random nonsense that the media has made for you, which is crazy.
It's true. So there's a documentary on Netflix that you should check out because I think it's all around these blue zones, and I think from memory it's called How to Live to 100. And it basically studies certain areas in the world, these blue zones, where there is a higher population of people that lived to 100 or over. And then it basically studies loads of different areas of their life to try and discover why it is they've been able to live so long. And the interesting part was very little of that show was actually to do with money. A lot of it was to do with diet. A big part of it, which surprised me, which I was not expecting, it was actually about the quality of your relationships. And you mentioned this when you said like the community and the security and the people around you and stuff like that. And I think when you have certain moments in life, and I don't know if this comes with age or it comes with certain experiences, you start to realize, and I think actually you mentioned this right at the very start of today's podcast, which was money is essentially it's a tool to just buy experiences, right? Nobody wants to be the richest person in the grave, right? It's not the goal for anyone. Money is a utility which essentially should allow you to just buy experiences that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. And I think for a long time, I was stuck in this world where I wanted to make big money. That's still a goal of mine. But I'm now trying to open my mind up to the idea that I want to exchange more of it, at least in the short term, if it means I can have a good and memorable experience. So like when I look back on my trip to Thailand, don't get me wrong, it didn't cost the world because it's a super cheap place to live, especially if you're from the UK. But I look back on the money I spent there and I'm like, we could have used that money for this or this or this. But then the experiences that I had, wouldn't trade them for the world. Completely changed my outlook on life, happiness. And genuinely, we came back to the UK. It took probably about a week to realize we made a mistake in probably coming back to the UK. We should have just stayed in Thailand. And when you think about if you're fortunate enough to earn in US dollars or British pounds, and you get to take that to a country like Thailand, and Thailand is just one of, I'm sure, many, but you get to live a much better quality of life. And, this goes back to a lot of what you discussed about, like the typical, I guess, Asian upbringing, where you're taught that you have to go down the very traditional route. And I think I see this a lot in my parents and grandparents. They had no other choice, right? For them, the only way to live a good quality life is you had to be educated, and then you had to position yourself where that education paid you best. Whereas me and you are fortunate. We have the internet, right? The internet has changed so much. Your ability to make money, your ability to network, your ability to sell or acquire knowledge, it's unlike any other time in the world, right? And maybe you're more clued onto this than I was, because I did a very generic, bog standard business degree when I went to university. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I did business because it was the only thing I was interested in. You did computer science, and I don't know a lot of what computer science is about, but it seems a lot more forward thinking than just my standard
Yeah, I mean,
business
I,
degree.
I just did it because that was the highest paid, like in the UK degree, right?
Really?
So just in case nothing worked, at least I had a shot at the highest, like, income in the UK, right?
Yeah. Interesting. So do you not think that the degree is going to be something that you ever use?
Nah, never. I just feel like it's kind of like disrespectful to myself going into a job and using a degree. It's like giving up. It's like I've given up. I'm going to a job. Like, I don't know. Maybe if I'm homeless and it's my only option, right? I feel like even then there's better ways to like make money, right?
Yeah.
Instead of going and just begging someone for a job and then working under someone.
Yeah. So
I-
sorry, go on.
I had like some conflicting thoughts about what you were talking about before.
Go on.
So you said like going to Thailand, living a very happy life, right? That could be very fulfilling. But then you also think about, would like driving a Ferrari in London every day, living in your penthouse be fulfilling? So like how do you choose that? Because I feel like both these options are extremely good. Right?
So you're right. And I think this is where it comes down to the type of person. And I can tell you from at least my experience, I can't speak for obviously everyone. My girlfriend is a big city girl. So like when we went to Thailand, the place that she loved most was Bangkok. Big, busy city, a lot of people that do business there, have money there. My favorite place was just on a remote island, like on a beach. You could put me in some like £2 Primark flip-flops, give me a beer, put me on the beach. I'm a happy guy. It does. I think what that trip really taught me was I don't need a lot to make money. I started off very differently. I wanted all the luxury cars. I wanted all the luxury watches. And I think I'm still going to get those at some point to tick them off.
Yeah, but isn't that like an easy way out, do you think? Because it is definitely easier, isn't it?
It is. But so why do you want to make money?
It's like, think about it, like, for example, back in the day, kings, right? It's like they conquered a small land and they just stayed there forever, peace. But they always kept going. They always wanted the bigger land, kept conquering. I don't know. It was just.
I think I like to think of it, or at least my perspective on it now is I agree with you in the sense that you need a challenge. You need something to work on. You need something to grow and have some kind of impact. But for me, the end of that doesn't always have to equate to financial gains. And I don't know if that's something that you will forever disagree with. I'm not sure if that's something that will ever change with time.
Like, I'm still trying to learn about this,
Yeah.
It's a very interesting point of view here, because they're both very good, but it's like very hard to choose which one and for what reasons.
Yeah. So I can tell you this from my experience, right? I've always been super honest and open about this. I've never made what I would say like life-changing money from trading. Not yet. I spoke about this very recently on a podcast where I was kind of like, I feel like my journey into trading is still just beginning. I've got my best years ahead of me. But I've made money in the markets. But there is no amount of money that has ever made me happier than if I was to work and I coach someone and they come back to me and say, you know what, like, you've had a very positive impact in my life, or you've done something that's really helped me with this relationship or the way I look at the markets, or I no longer get as angry as I used to. That for me is more fulfilling than any number of pounds that I could earn from the markets. Because, and I maybe you'll relate to this idea as well. You referred to them as just numbers on a screen, right? Really, the numbers on a screen don't really mean much. And after a certain point in time, and I don't know if you've already hit this, trading is fucking boring. I find it really, really boring. And especially, I trade the higher time frame. So there are times when my go-to chart is a daily chart.
Yeah.
There are times where I don't take trades for like a week or two. And so for me, trading can be very, very boring. And I need something to keep my mind busy. I need something that's going to be fulfilling to me. And a lot of the time, that doesn't come from necessarily seeing more zeros in my bank account. It doesn't come from having the perfect trade on the charts. It comes from knowing I've had a very positive impact in someone's life. And it was a lot of the reason why I wanted to get into coaching.
That is very true. I agree.
Do you have like a course or a mentorship? I know that's...
I'm currently building a mentorship.
Okay. What's the purpose behind it?
Well, for me, to be honest, is make money, right?
Okay, yeah,
But
cool.
then I want to do the right way because, a lot of people in this space are just selling garbage.
Yeah.
So I want to put my time into it and actually provide value so that it's a fair exchange of value for their money. That's how I'm going to do it.
Would it make you feel happy if someone from your mentorship was able to make like a life-changing amount of money?
For sure.
Right? So that for me is the thing that means more to me than money right now.
That's like a big achievement. Imagine
100%.
You would want to tell people that instead of telling people that you made $1 million.
Exactly.
You'd be like, you know what? This guy just made $50K a month because I helped him. That's crazy.
100%.
He's living good life. His parents are getting fed. His family's getting fed because of me.
Yeah.
That's so much better than being like, I made 50M and I bought a Ferrari.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, right? The impact part is massive for me. And I think now, again, I'm not saying I'm never going to have an expensive watch or a fancy car or a big house or a penthouse or whatever it is. I'm not saying I'm never going to have that. But I know that for me, money is, like you said, it's a tool that buys experiences. And actually, I think if I had, let's say we went with your lifestyle, which is 50 to 100K a month, I think I would take a good portion of that and I would just want to help other people. That might sound stupid and people might think I'm just saying it for the cameras or whatever it is. But genuinely, the thing that makes me happiest is actually seeing other people happy from something that I have done. Whether it's something that I've bought them, whether it's something that I've done, whether it's a coaching session, whatever it is, but actually having that impact makes me feel better than actually earning the money itself.
That is true. I feel like it probably would be like that after a while.
Yeah.
Maybe first few months, maybe a year of doing that, of just earning money. You might want to keep spending, buy stuff. But at one point, you will have everything you want, right? Unless you're just too materialistic. You just need the big yacht. You just need the ultra mega like mansion with 10 rooms that are useless.
Yep.
I don't know why some people need that, right? But I guess some people just want to show off like at that level. But
so this is a lesson that I learned when, I can't remember how old I was, but when I bought my first iPhone, I was over the moon. I'm a big like tech guy. I love gadgets. You can see I'm sitting here with my, I love gadgets, right? When I bought my first iPhone, for me, that was a huge achievement. And this is at the stage where they started to get quite expensive. And so when I bought it, it was like, at that time, it was a big outlay for me. And when I bought it, I opened it up and I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Like, look how much money I've spent on this. Nobody else that I really knew had an iPhone at that point. And it took genuinely about 2 days before it stopped feeling the wow factor, right? And I realized after that point, this is true of a lot of materialistic things. If I was to spend 10, 20, 50, 100 grand on a watch, how long before I look at it and I stop going, wow?
Probably a week.
Right? It's true, right? And again, I'm very fortunate to know people that have supercars at the moment. And the question that I'm always asking them, does it still amaze you the same way that it did on day one? Like the first day when you jump in it and you start it and you hear the exhaust and you're like, holy shit, this is the best thing in life. Does it feel the same when you're on your 100th drive or your 500th drive or whatever it is? Because at some point it wears out. And after that time, what do? And the only thing people do is they buy the next one.
Yeah.
And the next one and the next one. But if your goal is to get to 50 to 100K a month, you could pretty much buy whatever you want. And at that point, when you've bought the best that there is to offer, where do you go from there? How do you make yourself happy if you own the best thing that's possibly out there? And you must know Dan Bilzerian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he gave I don't know if you've ever heard any of his speeches on money and happiness and the world and stuff like this, but he gave a perspective on this which always stuck with me. And whether his backstory or not is true, I don't know. But he talked about when he was in the army and he had no money. If he got sent to a steakhouse and he got given a pretty average steak, he would be on a happiness level, he would be at like a 10. because it was way above any of his current experiences. When he came out of that, when he started making a lot of money, he goes, nowadays he travels with, and again, this interview is a few years old, but he goes, at that point, he was traveling with like 2 or 3 chefs. They would make the best food in the world for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He goes, now if I went to like a super expensive, like Michelin star restaurant, whatever it may be, and they serve me the best food, it just feels average. It just feels normal because I'm used to having the best food all the time because my standards have gone up. But he goes, the problem with this is now if I went to a regular restaurant and I had just average food, where I would have been at one point a 10, now because I'm used to it, if I go to a really good restaurant, I'm at a 7. And if I have average food, I'm at like a 4. So he goes, actually going to a normal place now doesn't make me happy anymore. If anything, it makes me unhappy because it's below the standards that I've set myself. And I feel like I'm very conscious of this in how I live, because I'm like, if I buy everything that I wanted too early, and maybe you'll resonate to this because you're a lot younger than I am now. If you got everything that you ever wanted, the best car you could possibly want, the best watch, the biggest house, wherever that is in the world, how long before it feels normal? And then what do you do after that?
That is true. That's true.
I'm fucking up your whole mentality with money right now.
I mean, I agree. Like, I'm not trying to just chase money forever, right?
I get
like,
it.
The
Yeah.
goal is just make as much as make so much in a short time of right? Like maybe by 25, 30.
Yeah.
Basically be set for life.
Yeah.
Have income just coming in every month. You're living good, where you don't have to worry about like eating food, or worry about your parents not eating food or having a place to live. Just have that much money coming in, and then you just go about just enjoy life then. Like you explore different countries, different cultures. You just want to learn then, right?
Yeah.
That's like one way I think about it. But then sometimes I do think about, that's it, I'm just gonna become a billionaire, have 100 supercars, right?
Yeah.
Show everyone. Well, I don't know, like
100%. There's a little story. This is gonna sound super weird. There's a little story that I want to read you, right? So I heard this, I think, a few months ago, and it really stuck with me. And I want to read it out to you because I threw it in today. I didn't know if it was gonna come up in conversation, but I feel like if someone had told me this story when I was your age, maybe it would have changed my perspective on the world a little bit differently. And I'm not saying you need to, but I think it's very fitting with the line of conversation that we've had.
that's it, right?
I don't know if you've ever heard this. I think it's called I'm just going to read you the story. I can't even remember the title. We're going to go into it, right? An American investment banker was at the pier of a small coastal village in Mexico when a small boat with one fisherman docked up. Inside the small boat was several large yellowfin tuna. The American complimented the Mexican on the quality of his fish and asked him how long it took to catch them. And the Mexican replied, only a little while. The American then asked why he didn't stay out longer and catch more fish. The Mexican said he had enough to support his family's immediate needs. And the American said, but then what do you do with the rest of your time? And the Mexican fisherman said, I sleep late, I fish a little, I play with my children, I take siestas with my wife, Maria, and I stroll into the village each evening where I sip wine and I play guitar with my amigos. I have a full and busy life. The American scoffed and said, I have a Harvard MBA and I could help you. You should spend more time fishing, and with the proceeds, you should buy a bigger boat. And with the proceeds from the bigger boat, you can then buy several boats, and eventually you'll have a fleet of fishing boats. And instead of selling your catch to a middleman, you would sell directly to a processor, eventually opening your own cannery. You would need to control the product. You would control the product, the processing, and the distribution. But to do all this, you would need to leave your small coastal village and move to Mexico City, and then LA, and then New York City, where you will run your own enterprise. The Mexican fisherman said, how long would this all take? The American said, 15 to 20 years. And then he goes, and then what? The fisherman said, and then what? The American laughed and said, well, that's the best part. When the time is right, you could announce your IPO, you could sell your company stock to the public, and you could become very rich, and you could make your millions. Millions, said the fisherman, and then what? And the American says, then you could retire. You could move to a small coastal village where you could sleep late, fish a little, play with your kids, take siestas with your wife, stroll to the village in the evening where you could sip wine and play guitar with your amigos. Right? What do you think of that story?
Gave me the chills.
Yeah. I like that, man. But you know, I felt the same when I heard this story, right? Because for me, it sums up a lot of our modern day society. We get so focused on trying to make just a fixed number or a certain amount of money, but we don't think about what type of life do we actually want to live. Like we sit here, we trade, we run businesses, whatever it may be, but what do we actually want to do with the life? Let's say you make your 50, 100,000 a month, right? What do you do? What do you actually want to do? And
Then what?
yeah, exactly, right? He's learning. But I think this is genuinely true for a lot of people. And I think maybe the more experiences you'll have, I think you'll find you're actually happier with a lot less than you think you need. Because I think a lot of people, especially when you're young, and I'm telling you, at least from my experience, when I was young, I wanted it all. I wanted all the cars, I wanted all the watches, I wanted all the penthouses, I wanted to be ripping it up and down London, whatever it was. And again, I'm not saying I'm never going to do that stuff. But it's like when you really think about what's important in life, the experiences, the things that you want to do, maybe it's playing with your kids, maybe it's chilling with your wife, whatever it is, whatever you feel like is in your future, those experiences will probably mean far more than any amount of zeros in your bank account. And it made me think a lot about like, what's your why? What's your purpose? And that's something that I used to think about many, many years ago, but this story really reminded me of it. And it just gives you a good perspective on like why you're trying to chase it. Because I think if you don't know what your end goal is and you don't know what your mission is, you end up in this trap where you think, I just need to make the most amount of money. Like there's no amount of money that will ever make me happy. That's a dangerous path to be on because I think there's a lot of people that get to the end of life. And again, they've shown this in studies where nobody regrets not making more money, right? Nobody thinks, I wish I worked harder. Everyone thinks, I wish I spent more time with my friends. I wish I played with my kids more. I wish I did X, Y, and Z more. But it's very rarely about, I wish I made 10 more million.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, what the fuck are you going to do with that 10 million?
Maybe you just need to make just enough.
And this is why I like the idea of going back to Thailand. Because I think I realized I could be happy with far less. As long as I can still have my business, as long as I can still run things, still have some kind of impact, still have some good luxury experiences when I want to, come back to London every now and again, ball out, wherever it is. But I think I could be happy with far, far less than I think what we're taught we need here in the UK. Like you said, man, the majority of what we know is a scam.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, man. Okay, cool. It's been a very interesting conversation.
Yeah,
with
very
you
good
today,
conversation.
Man.
Very mind-opening.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I love having deep, meaningful conversations about life. And so
Me too.
that's good. I think we're going to get along very well, man. I wanna wind things down, and I usually have maybe a couple of questions that I want to ask you, maybe trading related, maybe life related, and just see where we go. Do you think what do you think is the best thing that trading has taught you about life?
The importance of freedom. Like how important it actually is to be able to do whatever you want, whenever you want. And not just like the opposite of that is being locked 9 to 5. That's literally part-time in a jail.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
Yeah.
Freedom is the ultimate goal, I would say.
Yeah. Honestly, I thought about this a lot. I was speaking to someone the other day and we talked about this idea that I think if someone was to pay me double the amount of money I was making now, but to go back to a 9 to 5, I don't know if I would want to do it.
Same.
I genuinely, it's crazy. But and I feel like that's weird from you because you're a money guy.
Now,
So it seems like you value freedom more than money then, right?
I do. Like I definitely value money,
Yeah.
but freedom is definitely more. Like
Yeah.
it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much time it takes you to make that money. So I'd rather take less money. Obviously, it depends. Is it like the difference between 10K and like 50K? Then that's a big difference, right? You might consider it.
Yeah.
But if it's like you're living comfortably and now you're just gonna live more luxury life, but you have to give away nearly all your day, it's like nah, not worth it.
100%. Okay. So I've got one last question for you that I want to wind down on. This one is a little bit of a psychology related one. I've ended up asking this one to every single one of my guests so far. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this because I know psychology hasn't been a huge battle for you, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one, right? So I like to give people a hypothetical scenario. And that hypothetical is, I want you to imagine for a moment that you run your own prop firm or hedge fund, for example. Your job at this moment in time is you have to hire new traders to work on your trade floor. The only problem is you can't see their track record. You have no idea if they're profitable. The only thing you can do is you can sit down, you can have a conversation with them, and you have to try and judge whether they are profitable by their characteristics of the person. What characteristics do you think would make a profitable trader? What would you look for in someone to try and figure out if they're profitable if you can't see their track record?
That's a very hard question to answer on the spot, right? It's like this is a type of question. We'll sit down, find some criteria, some example questions to ask them. But it definitely, I would have to ask some sort of hypotheticals to them.
Okay.
I'm not sure what exactly, but
So I can give you some kind of examples that previous guests have left, and they've talked about things like maybe the passion for trading. I know that's not a big one for you, but maybe their passion for trading. They've talked about things like maybe patience or stress or how they deal with anger or emotions. Maybe they've gone down the route of asking them difficult questions to see how they cope under stressful situations. Do you think any of those characteristics would matter?
I mean, the reason those didn't come to my mind is because most of them don't apply too much to me. I've never had a big challenge with these things, coping with stress or being patient. I've just done it. If it's needed, I just done it, right?
Yeah.
Even though I might not be patient, but I knew I need to be patient, just became patient.
Okay.
So that's maybe why these things didn't come to my mind. But overall, it does make sense, why everyone said these things, right?
Yeah.
Because those are the usual characteristics for a trader.
Okay. So let me flip this around a little bit. I would like to say you have a pretty good network of traders around you, right? People that generally do well. What do you think it is about the people that you know that makes them successful traders?
I think the main thing is never giving up. None of them ever gave up. They all had losses at one point. Most of them were really, really bad points in life, but they never gave up. They never just okay, that's it. I'm gonna call it quits here, right? They kept going, and eventually they were rewarded by the hard work.
Yeah, I like that, man. Beautiful. All right, I think we are gonna wind down, dude. It's been a pleasure to get to speak to
Likewise.
you today, man. Honestly, it's been a really good conversation. For anyone that has enjoyed listening to you speak today and they want to follow your journey, what's the best place to find you and follow you?
My Instagram, my YouTube, pretty much.
Instagram and
Yeah.
YouTube, yeah. Okay, perfect. Cool. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. As always, make sure you give Arman a follow. Clearly doing very, very big things, clearly very, very ambitious, and clearly going to do very, very well in his trading career. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And as always, make sure you leave a comment with your biggest takeaway from the episode below. I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care, my friends.